by. It's really interesting when we're learning more and more about, the big events, just the whole thing about being an author since you released your book to what's happening now.
It is. This has been a crazy adventure, beyond dreams, I guess. When I started the project of writing 5 years ago, didn't know Sherry, didn't know you, had not done a podcast at that time, had not uh, been involved in anything with TV. So it was all very new to me to come out and start talking about my undercover life, about my law enforcement career, to do that publicly. And in that time, I started developing these little goals. And it was like, okay, I want to get my book cover to be right. I would like to get a chance at having a bestseller or a top new release. Accomplish those things. And it was like, oh, this is just so exciting. One of the big goals I had was attending the annual Crime Con festival, which is a big conference. And I thought, well, they only take people that have done, a lot of things, that are going to be known, and I'm not known. And I thought, well, I'm going to apply this year. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to
Yeah.
apply. And so I applied. They said it would take 30 days to hear back. Everybody said, well, what's your goal on that? I said, to get invited next year. If I apply this year, they'll know I'm interested. And maybe next year I'll have my second book out. They'll say, okay, hey, she's trying. She's in the true crime genre. She's a true crime memoir writer. We'll give her a shot. 5 days after I applied, I got my email back telling me I had been accepted to CrimeCon Las Vegas, May 29th to the 31st. I'm going to be an exhibitor there. I am beyond excited. We're going to be at the Caesars Palace, which is just a primo hotel in the middle of Vegas. They're expecting well over 6,000 attendees. In fact, they think this year will set a record for them. They're looking closer to 7,500. That's just an enormous amount of people to show up. And I can't believe I'm having all these little goals come true. This is
Yeah, I mean,
wild.
so what is the process of being accepted to something like this? To be, yeah, yeah.
Well, they're looking for people in the true crime genre, and they're not just looking for people involved in murders. That it's not just all murder stories. They're into things from wrongful convictions, domestic violence, and having people who have experienced brutal domestic violence but have been involved in major criminal cases, to have those people as their guest speakers. They have cold cases and people who are into that. DNA forensics, they have lots of great forensics people, everything from the folks who know everything about bones to people who know all about the latest techniques in DNA and recovery and matching. They talk about the serial killers, but they're getting everything true crime that you can even conceive of. So it's the people that they know from TV, like investigative discovery. The Discovery channels are A&E. They're big on those shows. They also have people that cover it on the news. A lot of people are big Nancy Grace fans, and she's been around in the industry for a very long time. She's an attorney that's prominent. They have her. There are NBC has always had something with Dateline, so they're very big in participating. Uh, they have the advocacy communities involved. Uh, it's a educational opportunity. It's a chance to see somebody you enjoy watching on television. It's a chance to meet people that are famous authors. Uh, they have had, well, Joe Kenda, who did the forward in my book, Joe Kenda has been a part of it in the past events. Uh, the folks that work under James Patterson and with his true crime stuff, uh, Anne Rule, her books are big. Even though she's passed on, that's still a major thing because her books dealt with true crime. It's the true crime person's place. It like Comic Con. This is Crime Con, and it's the conference for them. And it's Fox Nation actually hosts a thing on their channel. I think it's a pay channel, but they do a thing where they cover all the big speaker guests that come out on stage. Then the exhibit hall, they've got people from brand new true crime podcasters that get accepted to true crime authors, somebody like me who's new, to someone who's been writing true crime for 20 years. It's a huge opportunity for people.
No, it seems like it's a huge opportunity, and it's just
Yeah.
so basically not everyone's accepted. Then it sounds like.
No, they're not. They're looking. They want to have variety. They want to have a little of everything that's true crime genre. That way, everybody gets a chance at it when you start putting in to apply. They have a committee that goes over those people who want to be exhibitors, those people that they're going to have speakers, those people that are going to be what they call creators on scene, which is a lot of the live feeds or a lot of the podcasting. They have some rules that they ask people to abide by. Some of the rules would be is that, we have people here who make a living in doing lives and podcasts. So we don't want everyone doing that, because those people, that's what we've invited them here for. But we have times for you, and there are things you can get permission to do, like from your exhibit booth or from your speaker section. They try to make the tickets affordable for the people who want to attend and want to see a lot of events too. They've been very good about trying to keep that in an affordability rate. They do have the platinum passes for some of their guests, and they have people that have locked in on that and have been attending 4 and 5 years of this. The first event was in 2017. In that year, they drew less than 1,000 people. My understanding, it was somewhere around 600. And it just blew up after that. It just got
And why true crime keeps growing? What do you think the reason true crime is just so popular? And it just continues, and everyone wants to try to keep this bug going because they know such the fan base on it.
I think people enjoy reality, and as much as I say that, true crime, of course, being reality, because you see the stories made up fictional, but beyond that, it's like the growth of podcasts right now. It is a market that is offering a lot of reality, talking to real people about real stories, real things. From you talk to me about my book and what's going on with it, but you're also talking to a lot of people, everyone from celebrities to brand new people getting into the industry, like as a writer or a producer, people who are brand new and getting into marketing. You're talking to them, entrepreneurs. There are people out there that crave that. They want to hear what someone else is doing or how they're doing it. They're interested in doing it themselves, or they used to do it. They did it for 40 years and no one ever recovered their business. But they're like, hey, look at these people getting out here and doing this now. So the same thing I think goes on with true crime. There's a lot of people that are just intrigued by that, particularly when you realize, if you look around just in your own community, it can happen right here next door to you in your own home. Or when you're driving down the road, you can suddenly become a witness involved in something and you've never been involved in that world in 50 years of living. It's just, it impacts us all. So I think there's just an intrigue beyond what people can imagine. And of course, the serial killers is always a big draw.
No, I think definitely the serial killers are a big draw. Now, the whole serial killer thing, is that over? Is
No.
that,
No.
even though with all the different things, CSI and everything, you
No.
think it's no?
There's a lot of serial criminals. Now, like I said, my experiences in my work, we more ran into the line of serial arsonists and serial bombers. And those people were killers in many times. Those cases are starting to come more popular among documentaries. They want to know about Thomas Sweat, who was the DC serial arsonist. Good friend of mine did the work with him. Well, it was a team effort by a lot of people for a while to catch him. Great science went into being able to catch him, and a whole lot of footwork and interviews. But serial bombers like Eric Rudolph, who did the Centennial Olympics, but he also did several other bombings, and he did kill people in his bombings. Those people are an intrigue. Then you have the serial killers that DNA is now solving these things from 30, 40, 50 years ago. And it intrigues people. People are still wrapped up in the Zodiac killer, and they want to see that really solved. People are still wrapped up in Jack the Ripper. They feel like from the DNA and the results from this past year that that case has come to a conclusion as to who it was, even though it was, we're looking at 130
Yeah.
years ago. I mean, everything. And it's those kind of crimes that are out there. There are people who are using the internet now to get people to realize the information they have. I follow a guy on TikTok. He goes by J Crime, and he is positive that his grandfather is the Zodiac killer. And I have listened to enough of what he has. Someone definitely needs to talk to him and look at all the stuff he has, because he's not a wingnut. He is not crazy. He's got documented things and places that his grandfather traveled and lived. All kinds of information that just links. That's just incredible. But it's more than that. There are people who are using the internet to reach out and tell you about a loved one that they had that disappeared, that just vanished, went out for a walk with the dog, and no one saw them again. They've looked high and low, and they've never recovered anything, never had any more information. They're wanting someone to help them find their loved one, to get an answer. And this is from 30 years ago or 2 weeks ago, but they are using the internet to get the information out. So it's drawing in more people who become immersed in true crime, or who want to listen to a podcast as they go down the road instead of just listening to radio music.
Wow. It's a quite an interesting venture,
It
to say the least. The true crime and serial killers. So you're saying that, are there a lot of copycats that are happening now because of the popularity?
I think every once in a rare while, I call it the blue moon, there are probably people who will try to make an incident look like it was a serial killer. But law enforcement does the best they can to keep as much information close to the vest, not exposing what they know, so that they can pick up on someone who is a copycat. I realize the media would love to report it all. I know that there are a lot of people who believe we need to know every detail, but when they're investigating, there are things that they need to keep close, so that when they do get the right person, they can have that information, versus people who do try to mimic and make it look like they're, well, a lot of times it's the spouse or someone else, and they want to make that crime look similar to what they know about some serial person. And so far, I don't think anyone has been able to pull that off. There are a lot of things they'll leave out in details on those. I do think that we have a growing problem with crime. Heinous, evil, violent murders, not just that momentary rage, but things that are just beyond evil and to just make you sick. Those crimes, I think we're having a lot more problem with that. And I don't know if it's the mental health factor. I don't know if it's an abuse of narcotics and alcohol. But there's got to be something to step into that. We have what they call the 12 years of hell, 1988 to 1990. And 12 years of hell is when we saw cities across the United States explode with the violence, with gangs over crack, mostly. That was the big thing, cocaine, crack. DC had 4,600 homicides in that 12-year span, that's a small city. A small city, but a city. That's the number of people you might find on an aircraft carrier. That's just unbelievable. Those kind of things, that gang violence, it's kind of cut back, but it's still brutal when it happens. And at the same time, you know, other things started happening. And what we're seeing in places like New York and Chicago, but in a lot of other places, even in Jackson, Mississippi, where someone who is mentally ill still roaming the streets after multiple arrests, multiple
Mm.
convictions, being turned loose because there's no place to put them. No one sends them anywhere. And they're brutally attacking and killing someone that's on a train, that's on the sidewalk. Uh, those things are still happening.
So, what do you think is the most popular serial killer right now that is in our John? I mean, in this era of the 20s, let's say 2020 on, has there been one that is really popular yet to the level of some of these others? You know, that get the big notoriety.
I think the one that's picking up on notoriety, that's catching people now that they had heard about, but because it was so mysterious and so unsolved, would be the Colonial Parkway murders that has continuing now since they came out in 2024 and announced who it was, and that's Alan Wilmer, Sr. Um, and the people are delving more into what went on there with him. He is deceased and has been for a few years. So the DNA, when it finally came available, got matched into the system. I think that has been a big deal. There are a few others that they are looking at as to who and how much. And then there's some of the serial killers I think that are closed off. They're not talking and haven't talked. There's nothing really coming out about them so much. Sean Patrick Goebel is one. They have him listed as 4 plus, and he's been locked up since about 1995, 96, somewhere in there. The FBI figures him between 150 to 300. The problem I see with the homicides that they feel like he was involved with, a lot of them would have been before DNA was as known or collected or taken care of as well, and especially with the 80s. And I don't know that the evidence was preserved as well. The other thing is his chosen victims were prostitutes. So a lot of those people, they had been runaways. They had been out on the streets. People didn't know who they were anymore. Their families hadn't seen them in years. So you're looking for someone you haven't seen since 1981, and maybe they've been out on the streets and they suddenly disappear completely, like in 1985, whereas DNA was just not a thing at that point. It started picking up more 87, 88, and then really took off in the 90s. I think beyond that, there is a revisit on some of the things that went on, with the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
That has become people are looking back at that again. And you'll see a few more like that too. It starts popping up, and people are like, "Wow, I didn't know this. When did this happen?" And they'll realize it was in their town, their city, and so they start learning about it a lot more. Serial rapist is another thing that people don't talk about much, probably because it is the crime of rape. But having a serial rapist anywhere out there is one of the scariest things I can imagine. And it's and
Yeah.
nobody wants that out there. Nobody wants someone like that out there. And, law enforcement will try to get the information out to people on that because they want people to realize that something like that's going on. But, getting what you need, getting the people to be aware and to know. And I know there's a lot of things they're talking about in Houston right now too, because the bodies keep turning up in the waterways down there. But so far they're saying there's nothing going on, and I'm not sure that I quite believe that at this point.
And so all those different things. Now your book, what do you think by being in front of this audience? What is your plan? How are you going to you're a lot of people are going to get to see you for the first time. How are you going to, get the best return on this experience?
Well, I'm talking to my editor. I'm talking to Sherry Clarke, who is on your show. You guys host together a lot, and I am talking to her about going with me to Crime Con for the weekend because my husband is not a really big Vegas person. I don't know that he can see himself over at my exhibit hall, for long hours and long evenings doing that. But he's like, hey, I can stay here and look after the dogs, and maybe you and Sherry could go on that event. And of course, Sherry's like, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. Uh, I like the idea of getting to meet and greet people, and I love that about Crime Con. Crime Con is very much about the people meeting the person they're wanting to meet. I mean, and getting to get if it's a picture with them, great. If you want my autograph, it makes me laugh because I can't imagine somebody wanting my autograph, but it's been humbling, and it's a kindness. They're showing me a kindness by wanting that, and I appreciate that very much. But if somebody wants to talk to me in an elevator or a hallway, I'm a talker. Come on, let's hang out. Hey, let's go get a Diet Coke. We can talk, and I'll answer their questions. I'll talk to them about things. Whatever it is. And if they want to tell me about something that's happening in their world, their life, and if I can help them, I will, because I know people are seeking answers. But if I can help them out, I will. I'm looking forward to that opportunity, and CrimeCon gives you that chance to really interact. I want to make new fans because I have a small fan base. I like to make new fans. I'd like to meet a few of my kind of heroes out there. I'd like to, I'm very much into the scientists, all the folks who know the DNA and the blood and the bones. I like those folks a lot. And I'm overwhelmed. Now there's a thing called Crime Cruise. I am trying to get picked for Crime Cruise. I don't think I'm quite to that level yet, but boy, wouldn't that be fun.
I think it's a lot of it has to do with selling tickets too.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see in that application process. So when is Crime Con? So when can people go check it out?
Crime Con is May 29 to May 31, Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace this year. It moves around. Like I said, they started in 2017. They have had it in Austin, Texas. They had it in 2017, I believe it was, in Vegas, or 28. No, I'm sorry, 2020 maybe, Vegas. So they've had Vegas before. They did really, really well. They're expecting to almost double in numbers this time. They had it in Aurora, Colorado, just outside of Denver there this past year. It was in September. Had a great size audience on that one. There are people that are wanting them to have it in Atlanta. They're talking about trying to get it in Orlando. It's really booming. They have had a couple of events over in the UK. I don't know if that's going to continue or not, but over in the UK, they are also really big crime fans. But you're going to find crime fans. I went to Uzbekistan for work about a year and a half ago, and Uzbekistan has plenty of crime fans, and they don't have a lot of crime. It's the lowest crime place I've ever been on the world, but they do like to watch true crime.
All right. And the best place to go is to JenniferClarkeEskew.com.
That's it.
Pick up your book.
That's it. Right. Right here at the bottom, Jennifer Clarke Eskew.
All right. All right. You're listening to and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just